Hey everyone, this is Coloring Chemist. My name is Connie and welcome back to my channel. We're going to do another collection video today. So today we're going to look at markers. In particular, we're going to do alcohol markers and permanent markers. Just to show you my storage, I'm doing not a top-down video, but I will go to a top-down video here in a few minutes. But on the left there, I've got Spectrum Noir, and I've got some of their Illustrator markers on the top there. Then some of their TriBlend and TriBrush markers kind of on the bottom. The rack to the right there has water-based markers, but we'll look at those a different day. And then I'm going to swing around slowly, try not to make you too sick. That's mostly pigment pit pens, but we'll look at those another day too. There you can see the snow outside. This is the beginning of November in central Canada. That's what we've got. Some gel pens, different brushes and things. There we go. So there is another rack of markers that I have. That is Winsor Newton Promarker and Promarker Brush, I think they're called now. And then at the very bottom there, you can see two rows. The second to last row is some Copic colors that just were colors that kind of the Winsor Newton range I felt didn't have. And then underneath the last row is the refills. Those are the new refills, the smaller refills. But on the bright side, they do fit nicely in those Spectrum Noir marker trays. All right, so I think we will go top down now, and we will take a look at some of my other smaller marker collections, and we'll take a look at the markers, a few of the samples of the markers that we've seen in these racks in detail. All right, here we are top down. This is my permanent marker collection. It's not very big. Now, when I say permanent marker, I don't mean alcohol marker. I'm talking about more than likely solvent-based markers, and so something like a Sharpie. I do actually have a few more Sharpies than this one. I think this was, they called it the Mystic Gem collection, maybe? So it's some neat colors in here, but I do have some just sort of primary colored Sharpies as well, but I didn't think it was worth pulling those out. So I don't use these very often. I should use them more. You know, there's some, and I apologize if the lighting's a little off. I'm trying to use natural lighting today. We'll see how that goes. So we've got, you know, it's a little brighter than the cap. But I did like these kind of muted, I like the idea of these muted colors. I think when I tested them out, they maybe came out not as muted as I had hoped. You know, that one looks, you can see the color on that. You've got like almost like a grayed out lavender, but, well, yeah, I guess it is. You know, now that I maybe should use these more. So they are solvent based. So there's some Sharpies. And then I have these BIC Intensity? Yeah, I think that's what they're called. This is a case that came with the jelly rolls. You know how you can buy that combination set of jelly rolls, or you used to be able to, I'm not sure if you still can, but it has a bunch of different kinds of jelly roll pens in the case, so it's got some metallic, some stardusts. Yeah, that's what this case was. And I have my gel pens in a little wooden stand on my desk. You might have even seen me sort of pan by it when I was doing the shot of how I store my markers. So I discovered this case actually fits the set of, it's a combined set. So we've got the BIC, I think they're called BIC Intensity. Yeah. We've got the fine points. So that's kind of that size. And then also in here, I have the extra fine points. Just trying to find one. Ultra fine, they're called. And so that's the ones that almost look like a fine liner. They came as a combined set. I think I got them on Amazon a couple of years ago, and both sets actually fit in here perfectly. So I thought, well, here's a good way to use this case. I think lots of people have probably seen these before. There was a few metallics in here. This one's one of the metallics. And the metallic ink is, I mean, it's like you would expect. You can pick that up and get it to shimmer at all there. Probably not. Probably if I... Ooh, that's really bright. Maybe a little bit of shine there. One of the reasons I was trying to do natural lighting... probably not. I mean, the metallic markers are kind of like every other metallic marker. They're not great. I'm going to turn this light back off, so it's going to go dark for a bit. There. I know there's shadows, but I'm using marker paper to sort of do little swatches and show you guys. And because it's so smooth, I thought if I used my filming light, I would get a little bit of glare. So that's, I know you can see shadows in my hands. So trying to do some natural lighting. We'll see. But yeah, so you saw ultrafine. So the ultrafine point, you know, you get tiny lines, the fine point, and some of the colors were repeated between the two sets. I don't know if they all were. I can't honestly remember. Looking for... Yeah, I can't honestly remember. The fine point. So you can get larger lines. You know, you can kind of hold it on its side if you're looking to cover a larger area. But yeah, these are the permanent markers I have. So solvent based, not alcohol based. And that's it for permanent markers. I'm just going to put these on the floor. Oh, sorry about the thump. For alcohol markers, I know this is kind of sacrilege, but this is all I have for Ohuhu. This is an old set of pastels. And this was their original set of pastels, and I honestly can't remember what it's called now. I know one of them was called Blossom. I forget what the older set was called. This is the... is it Honolulu? Is that what they're called? It's the ones with the brush and the broad end. So we've got the chisel end. They're good chisels. And then the brush end. Nice brush end too. Because I had already when Ohuhu really started to become big, I had already kind of really started to invest in the Winsor Newton alcohol markers. And, you know, I sort of, at that point, made a decision I was going to go with those. And I'll talk about in a few minutes here why. But that's why I kind of, you know, didn't, although I have to say that Want Monster, you know, I see people with these lovely large sets of the Ohuhu, and I think, oh, I love those. But the thing with alcohol markers is, you know, when we went through my pencil collection, I had a ton of pencils, more than, you know, you could probably ever use. But pencils don't go bad. So, you know, well, I suppose eventually they might get crumbly, I don't know. But, you know, they can sit on your shelf for years and years and years, and you can still use them. Alcohol markers, not so much, right? They should be able to sit for a while and not dry up, but not necessarily. Depends how well, you know, the caps fit, because you can get some drying out. So, yeah, I because I have the whole full set of brush markers, and I also have another full set of another kind of alcohol marker, I thought 2 full sets, that's probably going to get me through. And I chose to go with sets that I could get open stock, just because I know that there are certain colors that I'm going to go through much more quickly than others, and I wanted the ability to just be able to buy, you know, the markers I needed. Now, I know that just recently, Ohuhu has started offering some, I don't know if it's all, of their markers open stock, and they started offering refills for some of their markers, which is great. But like I say, at the time, when I was sort of deciding, you know, what kind of marker system I was going to go with, they didn't have all that. It was just these sets. I think at that time there was maybe only 120 or 168 colors. So that was a decision I made, and I've kind of stuck with it. But I do have this small set of the Ohuhu pastels, the original pastels. So I've got those in their little zipper case, which I have to say is pretty cute. And I have at various times taken these out and put them somewhere else and used this little case to put other markers in. I think for a while I had some of the Copic refills I was storing in here, so their little zippered cases they're pretty handy. I also have an old set of the Blick Studio markers, and I got the original set of, how many is in here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 24 times 4, 96. So the original 96 set. I don't have the new colors. And when I got the original 96 set, they came in these little plastic cases. So they have a lid that comes off. And down in the bottom of the bottom part of the case, there's a grid, so it holds the markers nice and upright. I kind of like these little cases. I know the larger new set comes in a big box, but these little cases are nice. And what I did was I put all of sort of, there's 4 of these cases. So I have kind of the yellows and browns there, and then reds and purples and violets, and then blues and greens, and then grays. So it's nice, it's compact, and if I only want one of these color families to be working with, then I can have it on my desk, and I don't have to have, you know, a big box on my desk. I also made little swatch cards, and I put them in, I just sort of slide them into the case right there. Now I know that's not the greatest because they will fade. And I also noticed, this is weird, I haven't used these markers in quite a while. So, you know, they've been stored in a bin, so they haven't been sitting out in, you know, direct sunlight. So these colors haven't faded actually as much as I thought they would. But there are like 075. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see how it's kind of bled yellow? And if I flip this over, it's the third one in. It's the one right there. It's gone yellow around the edge of that color. Now, 075 is terracotta. That's an orange color. I don't know if that means, I've never heard of anyone saying that they've used these Blick markers, and these are old. I bought these probably close to when they first came out, and maybe they've changed their formulation, I don't know. I've never heard of anyone saying that they've had yellowing in coloring books from using Blick markers, but I just noticed that when I went to pull these out to do this video. I thought, well, that's weird. You know, you've got this orangey color with some yellowing. Yeah, I noticed it there. This 076 color, which is salmon pink. I don't know if the camera will pick it up or not. So it's that one right there. Sorry, there's a shadow there too. Maybe. I'm just going to turn this on for a second. Make it worse or better? Kind of worse. So I'm going to turn this back off. Sorry about that. Struggling with lighting. I might need more lights, better lights, I don't know. But yeah, just on a few of these orange colors, I just saw some yellowing, kind of almost like a halo around it. This 010, which is purple, has also almost kind of separated. I don't know if you can see that. Someone in the corner there. The pink and the purple have sort of, there's kind of like a pink bits around the edges there. Now again, these cards have been sitting for quite a while, so, you know, I maybe that's to be expected, I don't know. This 048, which is leaf green, which is one that I actually would use quite often, and 043, spring grain. I've also, and 042, chartreuse. I can see a little bit of yellowing, just particularly you can see on the back there for those ones there, and then up here. So, I don't know. Has anyone ever used Blick Studio markers in coloring books and seen any yellowing? Because these are just cards sitting in these marker containers, I don't know if the yellowing would... I know some of the... Was it Ohuhu? And there was some other less expensive brands, some budget brands, where the yellowing would actually go to the next page in the book. I don't know if that's the case here, because they're just sitting in these racks. But yeah, you know what? They're a nice marker. So they also have a chisel end and a brush end. Rather than being round, they're kind of this almost oval. What are they? They're octagonal. They have 8 sides. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. But they're not all the same, so they're flatter on the top and the bottom. You can see that. And then you've got chisel end, which makes you know what? Considering I haven't used these in a while, they're still pretty juicy. And then a nice brush end. You can get replacement brushes, replacement nibs. You can also get replacement chisel ends. You can for the Ohuhu as well. Sorry, I should have mentioned that. Yeah. Like I say, I don't have the new colors. I just have this 96 set. But you know what? This served me well. I think, other than a few Sharpies that I had at the time, this was the first set of alcohol markers that I had gotten. And when I first started coloring, I actually started out with water-based. I didn't understand. I didn't know the difference. I didn't understand. I was learning. And I started out with a set of Japanese brush-tipped water-based markers, which I really liked, and we'll do the water-based in a different video. But they streaked because they're water-based. So I did some research, and I discovered that alcohol markers would be less likely to streak, and these were... You know, I did discover Copic at the time, but I looked at the price and thought, whew, that's pretty expensive. So I wanted to try these first. They seemed like a good deal at the time, and I think they were. I might have even gotten a coupon or something on Blick. But I've never, you know, they were okay. And then I tried a few Winsor Newton markers, and I was kind of hooked. So, yeah. So I still have these. I pull them out sometimes and let my nieces and nephews use them. So they do still get used sometimes. I do like these little cases. I have some Copics. So I have 2 cases of Copics. I have this small case and try not to bang the camera here. This larger case. There's a few gaps here. Those are markers that you saw at the beginning on the bottom of my Winsor Newton marker rack. So those were some green colors that I just felt were missing from the Winsor Newton, so that's where those are. And then there's just some empty spots here at the end. Both of these cases, this has a lid as well, but I just thought I'd show you the lid on this one. And you can buy these cases, you can buy empty Copic marker cases. So if you have Copic markers and you're just wondering, you know, how can I store them? I know they sell cases, like zipper cases, they sell all kinds of ways, but these little, they're plastic, clear plastic, hard plastic. They come with these little grids. And they're kind of neat because you sort of kind of wiggle them onto the top of the markers. They just look like this. See? We've got a grid. And what it does is it holds all the markers upright and in their own slots. It can be kind of a pain to kind of get it back on. You have to just kind of wiggle it there. And it's particularly handy if you have chow markers in here. Most of my markers are the Copic sketch markers, and I think that's probably what these containers were meant to hold. But I do have a few chows, and the chows will tend to flop a bit just because they're smaller, so these little grids just tend to hold everything in place. So most of you have probably seen Copics before. You've got duck blue. you've got a brush and a chisel on the sketch marker. On the chow marker, you also have a brush and a chisel. These are basically, it's the same ink. It's the same nibs, as far as I can tell. The chow marker just has less ink, right? It's a smaller body marker. It's about the same length, but it's the sketch markers are oval, whereas the chow markers are round. The chow markers do have a tiny little nib, or not a nib, a nub, on the cap of the, well, both caps, I guess. So that's potentially to stop it from rolling, although, I mean, if your desk is really slanted, I don't know how much it's going to stop it. The Copic sketch are oval, so then they're less likely to roll. Gonna move these out of the way. There's the brush nib. It is a lovely nib, and you can buy replacement nibs for both the brush and the chisel. There's your chisel. Look at that. It's drying out. These Blick markers have probably sat longer than these Copic markers. I have found, I know this is kind of blasphemous. I know Copic markers are kind of, you know, the creme de la creme of alcohol markers, but I've been disappointed with their sketch markers lately. I don't know if you can see. Like, I clicked these lids on as much as I could. There's a little gap. Can you see that? Right? You've got the gray band to show you that this is the brush end. But just on that side of the gray band, there's a little tiny gap where I can't get this. You see it? This lid won't go on any further. It just won't. And I noticed that with, a couple different, well, quite a few different Copic markers. The lids just don't seem to click and sit properly. And so, you know, I haven't used this duck blue in a while, true, but I also hadn't used that Blick marker in a while. And that was, or the Ohuhu for that matter, and they were nice and juicy. This, the chisel end's starting to dry out. So let's check out this chow. This is BG13. Oh, I should say, sorry, forgot to mention, all of the markers that we've looked at so far, the alcohol markers anyway, are all color-coded with names and numbers. The Sharpies were not, I don't think. I think the Blick one, or the BIC, ones were. Those BIC Intensity ones, they also had some color names on them. But the Blick alcohol markers had color names and numbers. And, of course, the Ohuhu does, and Copic does, of course. So this is mint green. So here we've got the chisel end. See, that one's, and I haven't used this in a while either. That one's okay. I don't know. So it's, where's another E97 dark orange. This is relatively new. I bought this not too long ago. That seems okay. Yeah. This fluorescent dull yellow green, I bought this a long time ago and have really not used it for anything. So, let's see. Well, that one's juicy. Interesting. And this one, I don't know, kind of looks like it has that same gap. I don't know. So, yeah, I've just been finding, particularly Copics that I purchased, I would say, in the last year. In fact, one of the ones that are on the bottom of the marker rack, the Winsor Newton marker rack over there, I purchased within the last year. I know I did. And I don't think I had used it at all. And I went to pick it up and use it, and I had used it to swatch. That's it. And I went to pick it up and use it maybe a couple months ago, and it was dry or almost dry. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Copic. If they're having some issues with quality control, I don't really know. I also have, so those are the markers that I have, the alcohol markers I have where I don't have full sets. So I had that little set of Ohuhu. I had the original 96 set of Blick Studio markers, and I have, I would say probably not even half the Copics, maybe half-ish of the Copics. I do have a full set of the Spectrum Noir alcohol markers, but I have a full set in an odd way. So, you know, I make these little color, and I do have these color cards for the Copics as well. I just don't know where they were. They're obviously not in the case. Maybe they were in the opposite side of the big case. I don't know. So these swatch cards, I do have a full set of the Spectrum Noir colors. But what I did was I originally purchased their TriBlend markers. And if you've not seen these before, these were the original TriBlend. So these are not the brush tips. These TriBlend markers have 3 markers in one. You see that? The original TriBlend markers had bullet tips, and their purpose was to provide a blending trio in the same family. So just to help, you know, people who are new to using alcohol markers to be able to blend while coloring with alcohol markers a little bit easier. And they were meant for crafters. I don't think they were ever meant for artists. This is the brown-gray blend. I know, not an exciting one, but so we've got BG, brown-gray, BG2, light, says, BG3, mid, and BG4, dark. And the point was, well, put this aside up there, you should be able to, and I know I'm probably not blending like I should. That's kind of how I blend alcohol markers. So I'll do the dark, and then I'll do the mid and light, and then I'll just kind of go back over everything with the light. I know I'm probably not supposed to. There was even a little pamphlet that came with these. I think you're supposed to lay down light first, and then do, make sure I get the right one here, mid, and then dark. And then, are you supposed to go back over everything? Okay, yeah, that does give a better blend. I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you, Spectrum Noir. Sometimes I get lazy. So, they are meant to form these blending families. So what I did to get the whole range of colors, because they come in these tri-blends, but they also come individually, like this. So it says Illustrator by Spectrum Noir. These individual markers have a bullet nib, but it's smaller. I don't know if you can see that. It's a smaller, sorry, we're really getting shadows now, aren't we? It's a smaller bullet nib than you saw on the TriBlend. And then they have a brush nib. You could buy all of the colors individually, like this. But what I did was, I took a look at, and this was before, this was when they just had 48 of these TriBlend markers. So you get them in 2 packages of 24. And I think one of them is called Essentials, maybe? You know what, I can't remember. If I remember, I'll try and put it up on the screen. But there's two boxes of 24. And by doing that, so this was my brown gray example. I got, and I don't know, maybe I'll zoom in here a bit so you can see. So I've got BG2, BG3, BG4, and then this other marker, which is also, it's called brown gray shades. This was called brown gray blend. So now I've got BG5, BG6, and BG7. The higher the number, the darker the tone, or the darker the shade. And so BG7 is the darkest I could get between these two. When looking at their whole range of colors, I noticed that brown gray started at BG1 and went up to BG10. Well, I already had 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So for individual markers, I got BG1, and then 8, 9, and 10. So by doing it this way, I now have all of the brown gray colors, but I didn't have to buy individual markers. Looking back, was that a money savings? I don't know, because you obviously get less ink in these TriBlend markers, right? You've got a bigger, they call it a cartridge inside these markers. It's going to hold more ink, right, for these individual markers. And at the time, these TriBlend markers didn't come in a brush tip. So I don't have a brush tip. Well, I do now, but at the time I didn't have a brush tip then for numbers 2 through 7, only 1, and then 8, 9, 10. So, but that way, and that's what I did. So it took a while. I had to go through, you know, what colors were included if I got the TriBlends, and then I just filled out the individual markers with the ones that, you know, I didn't have. So let's see how our blends are looking. Yeah, okay, that's a better blend. That one was not so good. There's the... So it's quite a fine bullet nib on these Illustrator markers. And then there's the brush. It's a softer brush than Copic. Some people like that, some people don't. I don't know if you can see. It's got quite a bit of flex to it. I don't mind either way. It does tend to, you know, if you put a lot of pressure on it, it will stay... You can see that it will stay kind of bent. It doesn't tend to spring back. But you know what? I don't think I've ever had to replace a nib on these. Now, mind you, I'm not doing alcohol marker work all day, every day. But you can get replacement nibs for both ends of this. As far as I know, you can't get replacement nibs for these. I've looked, and I don't think I've found them. Yeah. They now sell, where have I got one here? The TriBlend markers in brush nib format. So this is, they call it TriBlend Spectrum Noir brush. Same idea. You've got a light, medium, and dark color from the same color family. The one I grabbed here is Citrus Green Blend. Some of these, you've got the same, just looking at my, yeah, there we go. You've got the same blends in both the original, which you notice has a black barrel, and the brush, which has like a gray barrel. So these are both Citrus Green Blend, and we've got the original one with those larger bullet nibs, and then here's one with the brush nibs. But the colors that they give for the blend are not always the same. So the original bullet nibs, they've got CG1, CG2, and CG3 as their light, medium, and dark. For the brush nib, they've got CG1, CG2, and CG4. Often what you'll see with the brush nib ones is they'll give you colors for the blend that are a little bit farther apart in terms of light and dark, probably because it is easier to get blends with a brush nib than it is with a bullet nib. So maybe it's a little bit easier to blend you know, colors that are further apart in terms of, you know, light, medium, dark. I don't know. But you've got, again, the three markers. When I use these, I do like to have them all apart like this so I can work quickly. I think the key to alcohol marker blending is working quickly and also having nice smooth paper. So there's light, there's medium, there's dark, there you go. Now, I don't know. I think greens are they difficult to blend or easy? I can never remember. This CG4 does seem a little dark. You know, there's not a great blend going from the 4 to the 2. This is the original bullet tip. And this is, instead of 1, 2, 4, it's 1, 2, 3. You can see though the ink is I mean, it's pretty good. Sorry, they're very squeaky. They're probably the squeakiest markers, alcohol markers I have. Sorry if you hate that sound. So to my eye, that looks to be a little bit less stark of a blend, right? The CG3. Now, could be user error. It could just be that I'm not very good at blending. You know, maybe I should have feathered that out a bit, but I just thought I would sort of do the same, just kind of scribble blend technique there just to show the difference. But, I mean, the ink matches, it should be the same ink between the two. I was talking about nibs before. I did get some replacement nibs for these, just to have. And I tried to see if I could fit the replacement brush nib that I bought for these in here, but they don't fit. And that's too bad because these brush nibs do tend to, they get soft and mushy relatively quickly, which if you have a replacement for them is great. But on these TriBlend brush markers, as far as I know, you can't get a replacement nib. Now, maybe they thought that there was no point because there's so little ink in here that the ink would run out before you'd need a replacement nib. I don't know. Because again, with these you can see in the end there, or maybe you can or can't see, I would say the cartridge probably starts about there. So you've got this little teeny tiny cartridge of ink. Maybe extends up into the, the nib part a bit here. So yeah, maybe they thought this would run out of ink before you ever needed a new nib. I don't know. I kind of wish they did have replacement nibs, but they don't. You can also get 48 of these now. You couldn't when I was first collecting. Had these been available when I was first putting my set together, I might not have needed to buy, extras of these to fill out the color range. But, which does now mean that I have duplicates. I think with the brown gray, I bought 8, 9, 10 as these individual markers. I think now with the brown gray TriBlend brush that come in the sets, I think there is, maybe not a 10, but I think there's an 8 and a 9 on the brush. So yeah, I wouldn't have needed these, but I have them. Yeah. Oh, there was also some colors that just don't come in the TriBlend, so I bought individuals of those as well. They have a green gray, which I think there's green gray 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is a really lovely color. I really like those grayed out colors, right? It's just very pretty. They also have blue gray. I think again 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's just, I don't know if the natural light here is doing it justice or picking it up, but just really pretty. Future editing Connie here. I was wrong. They do have a blue-gray blend and a green-gray blend in the brush TriBlend markers, not the original. You can get ink refills, although in Canada and the US, it's a lot tougher to get them. I think you guys, this is a UK company, I think. You guys in the UK, I think you can buy Spectrum Noir stuff a lot more easily than we can. They do have a US storefront. I don't know if it ships to Canada. I got a lot of these directly from Crafter's Companion in the UK, but I noticed recently there's been a lot more shipping restrictions in terms of like alcohol and alcohol markers shipping overseas. So I don't know. I have refills for a lot of the colors that I use a lot, and the refills are little bottles with a dropper. I should have grabbed one. Sorry, forgot. But yeah, but I don't have refills for all the colors, so I don't know. You can, like I say, you can buy these open stock, the individual markers. I believe on Crafter's Companion you can buy these open stock. So the TriBlend Brush and the TriBlend, it's hard to say, original. I think you can get those open stock. They do now also have, they call them TriColour brush markers. And they have like this maroon barrel. And instead of having 3 colors all in the same family, sort of light, medium, dark, they've got different color families here, but ones that should blend. So here we've got, they call this one Azure Horizon, and we've got TB, so True Blue 2, IB, Ice Blue 1, Sky Blue, so it's Periwinkle Sky Blue, and then BT05, Ocean Mist. So these are all brushes as well, but you can see they're not all the same family. So we should be able to, it's very pale, hopefully you can see that. And again, I turn on the overhead light, but I don't know that it would make it any better. I don't know if that really showcases the different colors well, but I mean, they certainly do blend. Sorry, trying to put the right caps back on the right ends here. What else did I grab here? This is Antique Delicate. Should have grabbed darker colors. But we've got Lavender, Wisteria, and Old Rose. So kind of purples and pinks. Yeah, it gives a little bit of a better idea. So you can see that you get, instead of just all pinks or all purples, you've got a mixture of pink and purple there. And, oh my goodness, I think the shadows are getting worse. I'd have to turn this on. Let's see if this does anything. My apologies, guys. Yeah. Again, it's the lighting and everything is going to struggle because this is very smooth paper, so it's kind of shiny. So yeah, that's sort of the Spectrum Noir markers. Like I say, I do have a full set of all the colors, just through collecting. You know, I've got the TriBlends, and then, you know, filled out the rest of it. There are some duplicate colors in these. You know, like IB1 Sky Blue exists in, you know, this other format. TB2 Periwinkle exists in the other format. there are a few colors in these new, the TriColour, the ones with the burgundy barrels, that don't exist in my full set. And they have 05 as the color number. And I think that's meant to say like 0.5, like a half. So Ocean Mist, BT05. BT1 was the lightest of blue turquoise that existed in, my set there. But BT05 is lighter than BT1. So there are a few, not many, but there's a few colors in these TriColour markers that don't exist in the other set. These TriColour markers come in a set of 18, and I think you can only buy it. So there's 18 markers, but there are 18? Yeah, 18. And so 18 times 3, 18 times 3 is 54? Yeah, 54. 54 colors. 18 markers, 54 colors. So yeah, you get a few extra colors. I also, once upon a time, purchased, Spectrum Noir had some sort of limited edition gift set, I think they called it. And it came with some colors that I've never seen anywhere else before. Now, I don't know, did I need it? No. Did I need any of this stuff? No. But I'm sure, I'm just very grateful to have the stuff and the collections. It does. It makes me happy. The gift set had this, or the special edition, limited edition, had one of their TriColour Aqua markers in there. And so all of these were water-based. This is not. Oops. Meant to say that all of those others were alcohol-based, and this one is not. But it's got the same kind of brush tip, but instead of being alcohol-based, it's water-based. And this was, I don't think this is meant to blend, because we've got red fuchsia, leaf green, and yellow tulip. I think this was just meant to color. You've got your yellow, green, red, so you could do florals, I guess. But that was just one of the samples they had in that case, or in the set. They also included a color that I've not seen before, and it's pearl blue. So PB. And they included PB 234 in a TriBlend. And then this is PB1. This is a Classique marker, so it's very similar to their Illustrator markers, except instead of having a tiny bullet and a brush, it has a tiny bullet and a chisel. So you can get these as well. I don't know why, this is just what they sent, but actually the bullet's not as tiny. It's a bigger bullet. And then a chisel. But yeah, this pearl blue doesn't exist in the regular color range. So that was kind of neat. There's also a sage green blend in there that again doesn't exist in the regular color range. So we've got SG123, light, medium, and dark. And it's a very pretty kind of grade green. So that was nice to see some new colors in there. They also sent a floral pink blend in the TriBlend Brush. Again, this floral pink I don't think exists in the regular color range. It's quite neon bright. I don't know. It's not really a color that I would use often, but it came with it. And then they sent this TriColour Spectrum Noir Metallic. I've been on the search for metallic markers forever. So, I mean, it was interesting that this came with it, but I don't know. I mean, it's like a lot of other metallic. In fact, I think it's worse than a lot of other metallic markers I've seen. So there's antique bronze, silver ingot, and gold plate. I don't even know if there's any. The bronze doesn't have any shine at all. The silver has a little. The gold has a little. But that's about it. So, yeah. Those came in the special set. I have 3 Shinhan Touch markers that I keep with the Spectrum Noir. They're just colors that, I didn't find in other sets that I have. There's 2 kind of coral colors. There's a coral pink and a coral red. These Shinhan Touch markers have a brush end and a medium broad chisel. These are old markers and they're still lovely and juicy. And then this is turquoise blue. Again, brush end and chisel. Nice. I also bought refills for these. I believe I got these from Jackson's Art. But again, I'm not sure if you can buy this sort of thing and get it sent overseas anymore, because Cult Pens used to carry the Spectrum Noir markers and refills. I'm not sure if they still do. And they did send them to me at one point. And then I went to place another order for refills a couple months later, and they said, well, we can't send those to Canada. And I said, but you did. They said, well, we can't anymore. So, I don't know. Must be changing regulations, maybe. All right. So we're down to my last set of alcohol markers. And I would say they are my favorite. And I think I've mentioned this before. They are the Winsor Newton brush marker and Promarker. I have a full set of both of these. I've got 2 examples here of each. So these top 2 here, this is what they call, I think they call it the livery. Basically, it's the outside. So instead of having a printed barrel like a lot of the other ones do, these just have a sticker that goes around the outside of the barrel. So, I mean, they can probably save money that way because they're not having to print actual different plastic barrels for all the markers. It's just these black barrels and then they put a sticker on. This is the older style. So the older style, they were called Brush Marker and Promarker. The newer style, you can see it just looks different. They're called Promarker Brush now, and still Promarker. The Promarker Brush, you can see at the top there, kind of has a wavy kind of white line. And then this top part of the sticker is the color of the marker. And the Promarker has just a straight line, and then the top part of the sticker is the color of the marker. The color of the marker on the old livery was in the stripes. The brush marker had kind of a wavy stripe. The Promarker had a straight stripe. You've got 2 distinct ends. You've got a pointy end and a cylindrical end. The pointy end on the brush marker is where your brush is. The caps have like a little, or the pointy-ended cap has a little nub on it. I just find it helps to take it off. And then the cylindrical end is your chisel. With the Promarker, not the brush marker, you've got, that's where your nib is. It's not a super small bullet nib, but it's not super large either. And then you've got your chisel. And it's the same thing with the newer. All they've done is they haven't changed the marker body. They've just changed the sticker. These older markers are at least, I would say, 4 or 5 years old. They changed the livery like at least a couple years ago. And I use these a lot. And I'm pretty sure, just looking to see. Yeah, that's not drying out. We can check some of the newer ones here. There's the bullet nib. That's pretty juicy. They just don't seem to dry out. They seem to last forever. They are not refillable. They do not have replacement nibs, which means when that marker runs out, it runs out. It's done. You have to chuck it and get a new one. They are available open stock. The range, sorry, I didn't give the number range in terms of the number of Illustrator or the number of Spectrum Noir markers that are available. You know what? I don't know. I can look it up though, and I can go back and edit and put it on the screen. Future editing Connie here. So this is the full range, as far as I know, of Spectrum Noir alcohol markers, all the colors. I didn't buy a black because I had other blacks from other sets and I didn't feel it was necessary. And I didn't buy the 3 fluorescent colors just because, again, don't use them. But with the additional colors that I've got here on the sides, these are the colors that came in that limited edition set that don't come. And totaling everything up with the blender, there are 226 different colors, including the blender. And then for Winsor Newton, this is the full color range. And so everything here, including the blender, and then there's 6 metallic markers. They're technically not alcohol, I don't think. They're more of a pigment marker, but anyway. Ignore these greens down here, that was something else. So totaling all this up with the 6 alcohol markers in the blender, there's 199 different colors with the Winsor Newton, and that's Promarker and Promarker brush. Some of the colors you'll have in both ranges. So this is black, for instance, and I just happened to grab a black brush, but you can also get black in the non-brush, just the Promarker. Some colors only come in brush, some colors only come in non-brush, but if you sort of, combine so that you've got a color without any overlaps, but you've got all the colors, I think there's 216 colors. Oops, 199 colors, not 216. And you can see there's quite a range, particularly a lot of the light colors. And there's not a lot, I find there's a lot of those nice grayed out colors, which again, that's color ranges I really love. There's not a lot of really kind of weird neon-y, I just find a lot of the less expensive marker ranges, instead of pastels, what you're getting is a lot of odd neon colors. Like they're pale, but they've just, they're not, I don't know. They don't appeal to me, I guess is what I'm saying. The colors that are available just don't appeal to me. I love this color range. You've got all these really gorgeous, slightly tinted khaki colors, like this 0729. I don't know if you can even see the camera there. It's a really beautiful peachy pinky beige. Again, up here, you've got just some gorgeous, gorgeous colors. They've got warm grays, they've got cool grays, they've got ice grays. They do have some metallics, which are not great. And these 12 down here, those are the Copics that I added in, just because I felt that those colors in particular, some of these really dark reds, some of the darker greens, and some of the darker browns were just... Actually, that E99, I probably could find one over here, but... Yeah, so that's the Winsor Newton. Why do I like them so much? I do really like the color range, but I also want to show you something else. So let's get a new piece of paper here. We got a little bit of bleed through there, but we'll try and ignore that. I want to show you just a little demonstration, and I don't know whether this is going to show up on camera or not, but we'll see. So this is a Winsor Newton. I'm just using the chisel end. And I'm kind of going over, I probably should have something under that. Oh, I do. Just kind of going over the same, so I'm putting down a lot of layers of ink there. All right. And then I'm going to grab one of this Spectrum Noir that has a chisel. Do I have one? Well, this one has a chisel. It's a really light color though. Well, okay, I might not be able to do this with a chisel, but we'll do it with a brush. Oh, that one's drying out. So is this one. So this was... That's Winsor Newton. Spectrum Noir. Shinhan. Blick. And Copic. That's an odd choice of colors I have going there, but I'm hoping that you can see something. When you color with, I think you can see it on the Blick and maybe start to see it on the Copic. You sometimes get almost a speckly appearance. Sorry, the lighting's not really, I don't know if it's catching it or not. What if I turn this off? Nope, because I'm going to get a shadow then. Oh my goodness. You get almost a speckly look to the marker. I can see it a bit on the Copic as well. It's like a speckly look. And it's, I mean, I'm being really, really picky here. You see it less, well, a little bit on the Shinhan. I can see it on the Spectrum Noir, but where I don't see it is on Winsor Newton. And that was why I had originally chosen, because I had, you know, I had the set of Blick 92, 96, 92. And then I had bought some Copics. I'd bought a few Shinhans, and I had the Winsor Newton. I probably didn't need the Spectrum Noir, but I really liked the idea of the blending. But the Winsor Newton, it's like you can color with them, and you can put down a lot of layers of ink, and it looks like, it almost looks like it was printed by a printer. Like there's no, it's really, really consistent. There's none of those little speckles. Now that it's drying, I can see more of the speckles on the Copic. I think it has something to do with the way the dye particles are suspended in like the solvent that's in the marker. I don't know. But I can see more of the speckles on the Copic. I can see more of the speckles on the Blick. Less so on the Shinhan. Less so on the Spectrum Noir. But yeah, the Winsor Newton just goes down really, really smoothly. And I like that. I like that look. So yeah, that's the two reasons I think. And I like the way the brush tip feels. I like the fact that they don't dry out. They don't, you know, I mean, they will eventually run out of ink. I've had to replace them. They're available open stock, so I can just buy the colors that I want, or that I run out of. You know, I don't have to buy a whole set to replace colors. They go down, you know, beautifully, smoothly. They don't give you that speckly look. Once you've got a couple layers of ink down, you still get, I mean, yeah, they're going to be streaky a little bit because they're markers, right? But they don't give that, yeah, now that the Copic's drying, I can really see a lot of that speckling. And I just don't see it with the Winsor Newton. I don't know if you can see. I hold that up to the camera. And get it not in a shadow there. Can you see the speckling on the Copic? I mean, I'm being really super picky there. Maybe I can try, instead of holding it up to the camera, can I try zooming way, way, way in? Let's try that. Here's your Copic. There's Blick. There's Shinhan. There's the Spectrum Noir. There's the Winsor Newton. And I mean, that's a dark color. If I was going to see speckling, you'd think I would see it there. I can see a tiny bit maybe of the texture of the paper, But, you know, comparing that to that, I just see a lot of that speckling. So, yeah, multiple reasons. I know they're not for everybody. They're expensive. They're not refillable. You can't get replacement nibs. I've never had a nib fray though, ever. Some of these older markers, I mean, this Firebrick, I love this color. I use it all the time. That nib is not, it's got to be a foam nib. It does feel different from a Copic, but it's got nice flex. And not only, remember I was showing with, which one was I showing with? The Ohuhu maybe? Or, yeah, one of the others. When you push down on the nib, maybe it was the Spectrum Noir because it was a soft nib. It sort of kept that bent shape. That really doesn't. It springs back. So excellent nibs on these. Never had them fray. Have had the marker run out of ink, but I mean, using it until it runs out of ink takes a long time. And the nib stayed great the whole time. No speckling. Lovely coverage. Yeah, I just really like the Winsor Newton markers. Not cheap, but if you're really, if you're willing to pay and you're willing to invest, maybe something to look at, you know. And as always, because they're available open stock, buy just a few. Buy a few in the colors that you might like and will use a lot, and just see if you like them. I'd forgotten to show you guys the refills and the spare nibs that I had for the various markers that I have in my collection, so I thought I would just include a little bit here at the end. So here we've got the two different Copic ink refills. This is an older one. This is 25 milliliters of ink. It was sort of this kind of odd shape, and you do this without making a mess. It had a tip that looked like that. You can see that. So it's still a pointed tip, and then you could, when I refill my markers, I just tend to drip the ink directly on the nib, either on the brush end or the chisel end, and it takes longer, and then I just wait for it to sort of soak through and then down into the marker, so I don't actually remove a nib when I refill my alcohol markers. So for me, you know, this sort of shorter pointed end on this refill worked fine. It was a nice amount of ink. Then, of course, and lots of you that own Copics probably know this, they changed. I'm not sure, a couple of years ago now, I'm not sure when. And they came out with a new style of refill, which has literally half the ink. This is 25. This says 12 milliliters. But they said they did it because they wanted to put this new style of refill. I don't know if you call it a nib or yeah, on the end of it. Can you see? It's much longer and thinner. Because I imagine if you did refill your markers by taking the nib out and then putting, you know, that little spout directly into the marker, this longer spout probably would be easier, maybe. But because that's not how I refill my markers, it doesn't really matter to me. It is frustrating that you get half the ink and it's about the same price. It might even be more than that, but I mean, it's hard to judge that nowadays because things have gone up so much in price, even over the last year or two. But so that's the two Copic refills. Then we've got a Blick Studio refill. This is also 25 milliliters. This is very similar, I think, in style to the old Copic refill. So it has that shorter little spout on it. But again, the way I refill my markers, it works just fine for me. And then the only other markers that I have that have refills. Now, I know I did show some Ohuhus, and they do have some refills now, but I don't have any Ohuhu refills. But I do have some, and I don't have refills for every marker color that I have. I just tend to buy refills for colors that I use a lot. So here we have a green, there's another green, pale lilac. This is a CR11 from Spectrum Noir. So this is the other kind of refill that I have. This is the older style. It just came as this little bottle. This is 30 mils, so it's a little bit more even than the old style of Copic. And it's just a screw cap that has, oh, I don't want to pull it all the way out because it's going to drip ink. I don't know if you can see that. Ah. So it's just got a long eyedropper. And this is a plastic bottle. This is plastic. The eyedropper's plastic. So, yeah, it's a little messier in the sense that, you know, when you've got sort of the spout and the ink all in one, you don't have to pull it out like I just did and then have it drip. But, I don't know, it worked okay. And then, I'm not sure why they started selling them like this. So now when you buy them, they come in a box, and if I can get this out, there we go. You still get 30 milliliters of ink to the refill, but instead of having an integrated, because it just came like this, maybe they had some, and I actually did have some spillage issues. So it just, and this isn't open yet, and I probably won't open it just because I don't need this color right now. But it looks to me like you unscrew this cap, use this, take your ink, do your refilling, screw this cap back on, and then basically kind of store it in this little box. So yeah, storage-wise, I think, unless I'm missing something, unless, it doesn't feel like it though. I thought maybe you actually inserted this into a hole in the cap, but the cap doesn't, I don't know, it feels solid to me. I don't think that's the case. I think once you're done refilling, you sort of put it back like this, and then either put it back in its little box, or, yeah, you'd need, because this is going to be messy, right? Once you're done with I mean, you could wipe it off, but once you're done with a little dropper, I don't think it goes back in the bottle and gets stored in there. I can't see how that would work. So, yeah, this is the new style. That's how they're selling their refills. Again, I'm guessing because there maybe was some leakage or spillage issues with these ones. Don't know. And then I've got some nibs here. So, let me move the paper towel so it's easier to see the nibs. These are some refill Copic nibs. I can show you like that, if that's easier to see. I don't think, just trying to think. Actually, these might be Copic as well. So I do have replacement chisel and replacement brush. I have a couple packages of the brush, and I think this is the only package of the chisel nib replacements that I have, just because I don't use chisel nibs very often, but I do use the brush nibs. I've had to use a couple of these, but not many. Their brush is good, right? It was more, like I mentioned earlier in the video, just markers drying out. That was the problem. Blick, I have some replacement brush nibs there. I don't have a replacement for, what is the other end? The other end's a chisel. I don't have replacement for that. I just have the brushes. Again, had to use a few of these, but not many. And then these are the replacement nibs I have for Spectrum Noir. Now, I don't know if this originally had, it must have originally had some sort of other packaging. I can't imagine it came just like this, but I don't know if you can see in there. There are brush nibs and then tiny little bullet nibs, because for their studio markers, that's what you've got, right? You've got a brush nib on one end and a tiny little bullet nib on the other end. And then for their Classique markers, they have a chisel nib and a slightly larger brush nib, or not a brush, sorry, slightly larger bullet nib. And that's there. And I have tried, because remember I was saying earlier in the video, I really wish they had replacement nibs for their TriBlend markers. And the original TriBlend markers had that bullet nib, and I had bought I had bought this thinking that these larger bullet nibs in here that were originally meant for the Classique would work for the original TriBlend markers, but they don't. And then I had bought these because I do have some of the studio markers, so if I need refills for the brush nibs, I've got them here. But I tried these for the TriBlend Brush markers to see if I could refill or replace the nibs with these. They didn't work either. So as far as I know, you can replace nibs for Spectrum Noir markers, but only the individual markers. Either the studio marker, the brush and the fine tip, or the Classique marker with the bullet tip and the chisel. And that is my alcohol marker collection. I can't believe, I don't have that many sets, but I guess I do have a lot of markers, and this was still an hour long. I guess I am chatty. Thanks so much for sticking with, folks. If anyone has any questions, certainly put them down in the comments below. And I always forget, if you like what you're seeing, please consider liking my channel or liking the video, subscribing to my channel, hitting that notification bell, leaving a comment, or just sharing my channel with your friends in social media. I hope everyone is well. I hope everyone is safe. And I hope everybody is enjoying their coloring. See you next time. Bye-bye.